Good morning on this Tuesday morning, August 26th in the year 2025. Welcome to the Walking Outdoor Podcast. And we have a plethora of things to talk about today. Arun Sawat. Everybody's going to work at the moment. And I am out a little bit later than usual. The reason I'm out later than usual is because I also make videos, right? And this one video that I was making, I couldn't stop until I had it done. And it just went up. If you want to check it out, I'd be really thankful. And maybe you're interested in this type of thing, but it's about human intervention with nature or human inventions that caused human crises and ecological disasters. So if you're kind of interested to hear about one you probably never heard of, even if you lived within the country or one of the countries that it happened, you probably haven't even heard of it. But it's an absolutely tremendous one, and it's called the Aral Sea Crisis, and it's the first one that I've done on like an ecological thing, man-made or natural disaster. I did a natural disaster one, but that was more of like a personal blog thing with the tornado, typhoon, excuse me. But this is on a bigger scale, and it's something that actually has been happening, well, forever since any humans can remember. But it's a pretty wild thing. I mean, and there's some fantastic photographs and time lapses and stuff like that. So check it out if you're kind of interested in these kinds of things. The Aral Sea Crisis. Anyway, and that's on the channel. It's like 6 minutes long. So there's a bunch of other stuff on the channel too, which I would be most thankful if you guys wanted to check it out as well. But that plug being done and said, we get on to the topic du jour. First of all, I want to say Arun Sawat to all my Thai friends online here. Bonjour to my French friends. Hola to my Spanish friends. What else? What other languages? Guten Morgen to the German friends. I don't know, that's about it in my good morning abilities. Anyway, the sad part about this walk this morning for me is that normally I'm out at 5:50 or 5:45 in the morning or something like that, and I get this routine where there are certain people who go out, start walking and exercising at the same time. Well, I'm not going to be seeing them today, probably, most likely, unless they started late, which is nearly an hour now, and almost an hour late from the normal start time. But the sky is definitely up. As you can see some really nice lit up thunderhead over up there in the distance. And pretty soon, well, not pretty soon, but at some point during our walk, we'll get to the east-west point and we'll see what's happening. Today is a day here in Thailand. One of the things that I have to do today, and this is a big issue, is that I have to get my visa stamped into my passport. And my passport visa is a marriage visa, right? So hopefully all my paperwork and banking documents are all going to be in order today, which I am 99.9% sure they are. At some point today, I'll have my 1-year marriage visa, and it costs about $50, and I'll be a free man for a year. What I mean by free man for a year is that I will be free of any bureaucratic bullshit obligations. And if you lived in the United States, and probably other parts of Europe, but for me, it was the United States. When I lived there, they've got bureaucracy up the wazoo. Every day is a exercise of bureaucracy, and that's one of the things that I genuinely love about being in Thailand is the bureaucratic red tape and all that nonsense. For me, and for most people, doesn't exist. You're not inundated every single day with some sort of a document that you have to sign your life away, or your firstborn child, or credit card debts and stuff like that coming in, or fake bills and everything like that. It doesn't happen here. So this is my once a year red tape bureaucratic thing that I have to do. And when it's over, like I said, I'll be a free man, because I consider that to be one of my freedoms, not being obligated to the state. Because if you're obligated to the state, that means they have more control over you, and for me, that's really one of the reasons why I enjoy living in Thailand. And I'm sure there are other countries like that, like Thailand as well. But this is the spot that I ended up, and this is where I am, and I make the best of it that I can. I've seen lately on YouTube, which is totally ridiculous, in my opinion, all these videos. I think a lot of them are fake. Of expats, foreigners, phalangs, or whatever, saying, "Oh, no more Thailand. No, it's not for me," or Thailand didn't live up to my expectations, or something like that. I see a lot of those. I don't watch them. I have watched them occasionally, in the beginning when they started coming out. But after I watched one or two, I had to turn it off, because I know a lot of it's nonsense. I'll get to one of the points of nonsense and that's this I want to be very clear on, is that when guys, especially young guys, they say Thailand's not for them, or Thailand isn't the way they wanted it to be, or something like that. Whatever. They were disappointed. And their girlfriends are only out to screw them over for money and stuff like that. Well, I have news for you. Women all over the world have always and will always see men as a source of income. And if you go to bars where girls are working for money in any country, in any part of this world, they will be looking for money. They're not there just hoping that one day your ugly face is going to walk in there and save them. No, they're there to probably to feed a kid, to feed the parents, or whatever like that, because they can make better money than working otherwise. But that's not just it, The thing is that a lot of phalanges, from what I've been seeing, or of what I saw in these videos, say things like, I had a bad experience and stuff like that. So I'll be clear about this too, is a lot of our experiences are our own creation. we create most of our problems. We really do, you know? And if you're upset because somebody isn't doing what you want them to do, then you probably should think about your frame of thought or the way you're thinking. Because number one, Thailand or any country in the world is not here on this planet for your entertainment. There may be entertainment in these places for you, but it's not here for you, nor will it bend on its knee for you. And if you just look at what John F. Kennedy said in his famous speech to Americans, he said, ask what not your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And this is the freest, at that time, the freest democracy in the world. So this stupid idea of like, you know, being special and everything like that, you know, it's nice to be special in your own world and everything like that. But the fact of the matter is, no one is very special into the world. And we are constantly reminded by people who rise up and get taken down brutally because of their hubris and stuff like that. So my message to those YouTubers who are like, Thailand is, I was on a pink cloud for the first 6 months that I was here, and everybody was so nice and everything like that. And it just goes to show you, in my opinion, that they had no idea about Thai culture, and they had no idea about like probably ever traveling to another country before, or talking with people they didn't know, or whatever. It's because what right does anybody have to put expectations on another person or people? None. I expect nothing. Every single day when I go out and when I interact, I have zero expectations of anyone or anything. I will say, like, as far as like I expect to complete this walk, but really that's a hope. I would like to finish this walk, and my objective is to finish this walk. It might not be possible. Something could happen. I don't know. You never know. So, that's just like a pretty rudimentary example. But the moment you start expecting things of people, like, even if you're in like a work environment and you're a supposed boss or a manager or something like that, and you have these expectations of people, right? And if they don't meet these expectations, do you get upset and like torn up or anything like that? Or you could just be simple. Hey man, look, it's I'm sorry, but like it doesn't look like you're cut out for this. I wish you all the best, and so blah blah blah, right? That's the way I see it. So, but making expectations on like relationships with people and stuff like that, that's a pretty dangerous idea, because you delude yourself of ideas. So it is my ambition to disillusion you, and I don't know who you is, but disillusion people who have unreal expectations because they have desires which don't fit in with other people's concept of life. Xfinity, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Xfinity says, hey, what's up, man? I told you I'd be back. Well, thank goodness you're back. Been really glad to see you, and I appreciate that. I subscribe to your channel, by the way, and I do like animation. So, hey, man, maybe we could collab on something or like that later. And then we have Mansadusa, which sounds like Mansa Musa, the third richest person in the history of the world. And he says hi, and hi back to you, Mansa. Xfinity, this road looks like This road looks different from the last one. You are going on the same place or somewhere else. So this road is one of the roads that I do traditionally walk down, but it is not the road that, because I remember the point, just how we were having the conversation, we were on a different road. I'd love to go on a different road every single day, but the way the network is, like the way the layout of the roads and stuff like that, it might be a little more difficult and stuff like that, because once you get off like a main road like this, you're gonna walk down a soi, S-O-I. A soi is a small street, and at this time in the morning, I don't want to be talking out loud like this, because I don't know, my voice might be a little bit loud, and people are in their houses and very close to their quarters and stuff like that, and I'm sure you know, it might provide some sort of annoyance to people. So I walk down the main road, and then on the way back, I walk back on a semi-main road. But it has beautiful vistas and stuff like that. But if I was to walk down to certain sois and stuff like that, you know, that's sort of like walking on family's personal territory. If I don't know if you know what I mean, but like I would know when I was growing up in Brooklyn, anybody who lived on my block would know when somebody who was walking on our block wasn't from our block. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be that guy who's like walking with the phone in his hand and like, you know, talking loud and everything like that. I'm talking, you know, at a little bit higher tone than I would, because I want to be able to, you know, broadcast my message, whatever message I'm trying to say. Xfinity says, sure thing, brother. I loved your channel content and subscribed as well. Feel free to ask anytime for a collaboration. Absolutely, man. This might come sooner than later, because I'm trying to break into, like, you know, videos, and I have zero ability for animation and stuff like that. And like, I would love to, you know, collaborate to do some sort of different, because I do a lot of different kinds of videos, and some videos warrant some kind of animation or whatever. So most definitely, I have, you know, like I said, subscribe to your channel, and I'm not gonna go too much further into it, because I got to get those gears working now that you said that you were open to it. So like, we'll see what happens, you know. Get those gears working, or as we used to say in Washington Square Park, where I grew up, we would play chess in there, and one of the favorite lines of a chess player was, when he was waiting for his opponent to make a move, he'd look at him and he'd say, "I smell smoke." You know, like smoke, for like, you know, guy's thinking, you know, burning wood in his head, smoke. So anyway, I only explain that because like there might be a generational thing. But anyway, that's what they used to say. I smell smoke. Another thing we used to say was actually, this is what my father used to say to me. He'd look at me, and I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old or something like that, and I'd be like doing something stupid, and he'd turn around and he'd look at me and he'd say, "Lights are on, but nobody's home." Real nice. Xfinity says, completely understand. Is your channel a passion project, or you randomly decide to make it? It is a passion project, right? So I believe that if you're going to be successful in anything in this world, you must be passionate about it. You don't have to be. It helps if you are passionate about anything you do. And I'll even break it down as far as this. And it comes to the point of talking about happiness as well. Like why people are upset. Why are, do they get upset? Why can't they be happy or anything like that? So a lot of people get upset and unhappy because of their station in life. Well, I've done I started working when I was like 13 years old, dropped out of school. I think my first job was working in a bodega. I was working in a bodega, and then I got a little bit older, and I started working in construction. So I worked in construction for a couple of years, and then from construction, I had a great time working in construction. I had a great time working in the bodega, and then I went on to work in from construction. I went to working probably the best job that I ever quit. Well, one of them, to being a doorman porter in a building that had a union called 32B, 32J. And if anybody knows anything about that, that's a fantastic union. And I worked there for 2 years. I never officially joined the union. And I think that's because I was 18 years old, and I was I was not very knowledgeable, and the superintendent of the building was using me as a replacement for people who went on vacation and stuff like that. And as it turned out, that was year round, so I was filling in, and always filling in. And everybody who worked there was in 32B, 32J. And, so I really enjoyed the doorman thing. It was a nice building. It was right off of Washington Square Park, because I love Washington Square Park, and I'll talk about that more in a bit. But when I think back at it, when I was working as a doorman porter in that building, that was some of the best times of my life, man. The guys that I was working with, they were all I was 18, and they're all 65, But what I loved was how they treated me. What's up, boom, boom, arun suwa, sabadi lapao. You, changwa surin, shamai. So I loved working, doing those things and everything like that, I went back, when I went, I don't know, that was in 87. So I went back in 2021 or 22 or 23 or something like that. And I walked back because I was man, I love these guys. These guys are that, this was my learning. I had a father, but my father was an alcoholic, right? So he wasn't the best father. In fact, he was not a very good father at all. I'm not saying that he was a bad man or anything like that. And I'm not saying that I don't love him or I don't still love him or anything like that. But his interactions with me were, non-existent. So what happened was I would go out and get a job at the 32B, 32J, and I'd talk with these guys. I still remember all their names. Obviously, we had Carmine, Angel, Barbosa, Wolf, John, Wilfredo, Bill, the Super, Pete Mangan, Joe Large, and I went back. I got body suit, Tamai. Wani pom chapai saka tambru prewa pom ton satam visa Panria. So, look at that skateboard. Yeah, so that was the thing, because having older men in your life who are good men, and can provide mentorship and stuff like that is super important. And I didn't have that. I barely had a home life growing up. I was like offered up for adoption, and I mean, like, whatever, you know. I mean, like, my mother didn't put me up for adoption, but one of my best friend at the time, his mother wanted to adopt me, not because she liked me so much, but I did happen to be her son's best friend, and you know, we still, you know, think of each other as brothers. But she said, you know, basically she was saying that I was a neglected child, you know, because I was like never at my house. I hardly remember ever eating any meals at the house, or ever doing homework with my parents or anything like that. So that was that. So I just want to reiterate, if you know, can put a positive look out there onto people as an older, like if you're in your I don't know, any age that you're older than somebody, you should always be thinking about, I mean, and when I say should, I mean I really do mean should, because it's part of our survival, like going back, you know, thousands of years, to try to give good advice to people who are younger. It's just like, it's just a matter of survival. You know, I mean, if you want to break it down to that, it's not like somebody try to big dog you or anything like that. They just try, you know, I mean, some guys out there, they do try to big dog you. I remember this. This was funny. I wonder if you still have people who do this. You get into like a social setting, right? And people are like talking, and some guy who's maybe in his 20s or 30s, maybe younger, says something out loud about the conversation or whatever. Like he puts his 2 cents in, right? And then you get some older asshole goes, "I was doing that before you were born." I mean, that just shows you some people, you know, hello. Some people don't progress all that much as they get, because to say something like that to somebody who especially is like not even your family or a friend is just kind of psychotic in a way. Enzen 1 2 3. Mr. T in Turkmenistan. Do you have a tortoise also? Good morning, Mr. T in Turkmenistan. But your flag looks like a German flag, though. I don't think Turkmenistan and Germany are too close to each other, are they? This is Mr. T in Thailand. So then Xfinity says, that sounds really rough. Glad you've made it past that end, from where you like, and from what I've seen, you've been doing well. I super appreciate the positivity, as you know. I appreciate that. Most definitely. I hope that you have positivity in your life, and any you know. And, you know, I like to say, just leave the negativity in the rearview mirror. You know, and just don't let it bother you and stuff like that. You know. So I hope that I hope you're in a good space. I hope you're going to better spaces, or if you're already in the space you want to be, well, let it be. You know. So that was like, yeah, kind of that, which I was leading on to. Like the mentorship thing. So like, oh no, right. So yeah, I was going to respond to your comment, to Xfinity's comment about having it rough. Well, I haven't mentioned anything rough compared to what like it used to be. So I do want to tell you something, and I'll share this after I say hello to this gentleman. Arun Suwa Kunta Sabadilupa. I got bodysuit. Which is that I grew up in downtown Brooklyn in the 70s and 80s, right? a lot of artistic talent came out of there during those times, and I grew up with a lot of them. Um, but that's just a very small portion of the people that grew up in downtown Brooklyn. So, like, I would say like poverty and stuff like that is a real problem. You know, and it makes people do things that you know if you weren't in poverty would surprise you. But back in those days, in the 70s, right? They used to have police officers who would do what they call walk the beat, right? And everybody in the neighborhood is supposed to know who that officer is. And they'd like walk down the street, say hello to everybody, walk into businesses, ask them everything all right and everything like that. And he was the eyes and the ears on the ground and stuff like that. But certain neighborhoods, in the neighborhood that I was in, had a lot of abandoned houses on it, right? And it had projects 2 blocks away. Actually, had more than one project. Had 2 projects, which is crazy because like one project's bricks were made of brown and the other projects were made of white. And that had nothing to do with the residents inside. But just the fact that if you came from the white projects or the Gowanus projects, you were automatically enemies. It doesn't make any sense, But anyway, so the officers would walk the beat, walk down the street. Back then, they would carry a billy club, even in the 70s. But what happened with all these abandoned buildings and stuff like that is that, people will be people, and so a lot of people would go up to the roofs, myself included, right? And we'd be up on the roofs doing our thing or whatever we were doing, let your imagination run wild. But I never did this personally, but when some people saw police officers, not police officers, but the officer, because they would walk alone. When I saw a police officer walking alone, they would throw bottles and rocks and stuff like that. So what ended up happening was the police officers in the 70s stopped walking the beat. Now, that changed how the police officiating was done drastically, because this was like a big thing, like New York was going bankrupt. You had the Bronx was burning, you had a population that was absolutely, fed up. Am I going? Let's see. Ends in 1, 2, 3. Are you planning to visit North Korea? I am not. Thank you. Perhaps if you go, send me a postcard. So that radically changed the landscape of policing, right? Because back then it was like that was part of what was called the PEEL, PEEL principles. Like they were, not to say that there wasn't police brutality back then, because there certainly was. I mean, that's a whole nother subject. But the fact was that the officers walking the beat, they weren't out to like shoot anybody or whatever. They were there as a watchman, and that's the way policing had been done for centuries. But anyway, enough about that. To get back to the neighborhood, it's been, when people talk about like violent neighborhoods today and stuff like that, I don't think I've seen any really violent neighborhoods that I would consider like Arun Swat Yai Sabadi Lupao. When you phone talk, man? Oh man. So what was I saying? What the heck was I saying? So what was happening was There was a police brutality. He walked around with a billy club, whatever. Oh, right. So the thing is like back then, and then if you're over there, I think you'd probably have to be over 45 years old or 50 to remember this. But back in the 70s, asphalt wasn't made the same way as it is today. And so when that sun would start beating down in the summer, right, anything that was discarded onto the asphalt would be like, pressed into the asphalt. And I used to hang out on this one block called Wyckoff Street between Smith and Bond. And I knew some people there. And one family, two brothers that I used to hang out with down there, and a Spanish dude named Alejandro, right? And let me tell you something. Alejandro was a super nice kid. However, he had two older brothers, and his two older brothers were drug dealers. Back then people were doing heroin. Anyway, one of their customers owed the Rodriguez brothers $5. Now, the Rodriguez brothers' house that they parents owned or whatever, whether they just occupied, was in the middle of the block. Anyway, they got their hands on this guy who owed them $5. Now, this is 1975, 1976, $5. I guess that's like 20 today, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, they beat him up and they dragged him into the backyard. One of the brothers got a chainsaw and cut him in half, right? And so they cut this guy in half, and I was there with somebody else, and they took both halves of his body out of the house, wrapped it in like bloody sheets and stuff like that, and they put one half of his body on one end of the block and the other half of his body on the other end of the block. And that was their statement to say, if you owe the Rodriguez brothers any money, you're going to pay. God forbid you ever owed them any money. Fortunately, I never did. I was only 5-6 years old at the time. All right, so we have Xfinity says, a little off the topic, but if right is the same place... No, wait, hold on a second. A little off the topic, but if I'm right, if you pan the camera to the right is the same place you said last stream that not even Elon Musk can afford the view. And that's exactly where we are right now. 100%, you were right, brother. We are looking at it, and right here we see the clouds in the distance, but you could just see like some peaks of the mountains, like, coming out and stuff like that. It rained all last night. And that, my friend, is due west, right? So if you go due west from here, due west. Let me make sure I get this right. Yeah, due west. You'll run into the Golden Triangle, which is up a bunch of a mountain range, and then you pass the mountain range, you'll run into what's called the Shan State, which is like, it's a real state, but it's not like recognized by like the international body of decision makers. And then when you pass that, you get yourself into a country I don't recommend going now because they have a civil war called Myanmar. It used to be called Burma. And you get there, if you keep walking, you will end up in the Indian Ocean. So that's due west. And it is a beautiful view. And like I always say, and I say it to myself, and I might as well say it now. There's no man, woman, human being on this planet that has enough money, bars of gold, pieces of silver to buy what we're looking at now. And this is created by higher power, whatever that higher power may be. It is the most beautiful thing. No human can recreate it, and no human can buy it. Though they're trying, but, no human can buy it. And that is such a blessing, because without this great expanse of this wonderful, beautiful sky, we wouldn't, I don't think we'd be here very long. I don't think we'd be able to survive. So that's west. And then, as I always say at this point, we're going to see if the star of our show is out. and that is due east. And as you can see, the star of the show is on a sabbatical. That's our sun. And so you can see in the distance the mountains there and the clouds and everything like that. And if you walk due east here, you would cross over into Laos and go over that mountain range. And after you get over that mountain range, you would end up in Vietnam. And then if you kept walking east, if you could swim really well, you probably could swim to Hawaii. Or maybe you want to swim to California. I don't know. You got to be in special good shape for that. All right. And so Xfinity says, this seems like a good time for me to probably leave on a high note now, since it's around 3 a.m. in the morning for me. Xfinity says, it's been fun talking to you. I appreciate it very much. And, you know, God is love, love is God, Jah one, Rastafari, and everything. You know, we are all one, you know, so a lot of people don't get that. And you give me the motivation to continue walking, keeping healthy, and having a sane mind. So I very much appreciate you. Bless you, and may you have a blessed day. All right, well, now we're going to keep going. Oh, let's say I always got to take a look at these guys. So Sunday, one of these days, somebody in the chat is going to be able to tell me what kind of flower that is. Isn't that an intricate flower? Look at that. You see that? Let me smell it. No, I can't smell anything. It doesn't smell. But I had COVID. Orun Suwata. Sabari Lupao. You know. Oh, what do you Sabari Lupao. Hen Yai Pan Lupao. ผมไม่ได้เห็นยายพันธุ์2-3 วันแล้วขอบคุณมาก so yeah, so that flower didn't smell like anything. I could take a picture of it. I should, but I can't do that while I am streaming. But I want to take a look at another flower, less ornate and complicated, but still beautiful. And I can't really smell that one either, but I did have COVID like 3 times, and they said when you get COVID, sometimes you lose your sense of smell. And like for most, my sense of smell, but unfortunately, if somebody's smoking a cigarette, I still smell it. Ugh, what a curse! I can't smell flowers, but I can smell smoke. Isn't that a bitch? Anyway, that's pretty cool stuff, you know. And like I said to Xfinity, I super appreciate every single one in this stream. It's definitely a journey that, you know, we get to go through. So the last topic of the day that I wanted to talk about was, and we had hit on it earlier, was I was telling you guys about working as a doorman in just off of Washington Square Park. So, and I mentioned one of the bad events that I saw when I was like 5 years old, right? I'd seen, by the time I was like 14 or something like that, 14, 13 or something like that, probably like 13, I'd seen over 10 murders, you know. I mean, that was like an everyday occurrence. And that's not counting just people getting shot and surviving, or stabbed and surviving, or whatever. You know, it was like common, you know. I mean, to me, this was like a normal way of life. Not that I was partaking in it, but that it was a normal way of life. Like, you see your environment around you, and if you're lucky, you get a mentor who changes you. And so, in that job that I got, I had semi-mentors. Those guys were all super wonderful people. Unfortunately, when I stopped by in 2021 or whatever it was, whoever was working the door there told me that every single one of them had passed away, which I was really sad about. I wanted to ask him if he would let me go up to the water tower, because in 1987, I had written a message on the water tower, because everybody who, not everybody, but like a lot of people who work there, who go up there, they would like leave a message, just a short message, write it in chalk on the water tower, right, and leave the date. And so when I had gone up there in 1987, and because I went up there and I left a message, but there were dates, going back to like 1936, 1927, 1919, and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, I felt like blessed that I was able to, join that club or for whatever. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Anyway, so the thing is that like in my neighborhood when I was growing up, right, it was predominantly black and Hispanic. It was a very racially divided community, and being white, which I'm white, skinned, but half my family is black, so like, go figure. I mean, I can't win. I'm going to get it from both. I'm going to get it from everybody. I've been used to that, so don't bother me a bit. I just wish everybody could be more happy in their own lives rather than concentrating on the negativity and stuff like that. But anyway, that was the environment that I'd grown in, and like things like your daily activities could be dominated by some sort of a racial issue or something like that. And I had gotten to Washington Square Park, and the reason, I walked through by chance one day, and I was like 14 years old at the time. I walked through by chance, and I saw all these older guys playing chess and stuff like that, and everybody was like talking and having a good time and stuff like that. There were a couple other young folk there too, but like not too many. And it stayed in my mind, about this place. And so I had like semi learned the rules of chess somehow, like earlier in life or whatever. So I was convinced that I would be able to, play chess with some of these people, whatever. So, but the thing is that my life by this time had gone like really sideways. Like I knew, like the bunch of people that I knew were all going down a very competitively criminal way. I mean, like they have to outdo each other. They were violent. They were drug users and stuff like that. And I just wanted out of there. I just had to get out. I said, there's no way. I can't compete. There's no competition here. I am not going to be able to compete in this environment, right? So I remember walking into Washington Square Park, right? 14 years old. By the time I went back again, I think I might have been 15. I went back, and I just sort of like walking around a circle, looking at people. You had some people playing tonk or knock rummy or something like that. There was Jamaicans there, selling weed, and then there were chess players. A couple piano virtuosos would play chess, and they were like strong chess players. And then you had like a lot of Holocaust survivors, and you had people who, all sorts of life, from multimillionaires to people without a penny in their pocket sleeping on a bench. But once you got into that park and into that circle, it was like a Greek forum, because everybody was talking about some topic of philosophy or something like that, and talking about stuff, and none of it was like, identified by any race or creed or anything like that, even though it was like a completely mixed population of people. Nobody behaved that way. And I don't know if that was because at that time I was like 15 years old, and these people were like, a lot of them were in their 60s, right? So that 1985, so they would have been like 1925 when they were born. So they would have World War One, right? So maybe that's a result of the environment that they had to go through, or not. But anyway, it was a fantastic group of people, and I found mentorship there. And I found one in particular. I found one mentor, and I got to mention him. He opened the door for me. He was a black man named London, and he was a crack user, right? I know it sounds strange to you, but he was a very educated person, and his name was London because one of his favorite writers was this guy named Jack London. So he went on to tell me all about Jack London's books and stuff like that. I hadn't heard about any of that, and for that summer he started calling me son, and he didn't want anything from me except to be a good, whatever he was going wrong in his life. I feel now, I look back at it, he was trying to pass on some good, and he did pass on good to me. He taught me how he saw the world works, and that in an open-minded way. He wouldn't claim to be the absolute gospel on what he was saying, but try to educate me on things that nobody had ever educated me on, the character of people and stuff like that. So for that summer, I think it was 1986, London was my mentor. I used to see him every single day, walk in there, and we would just sit, and then I would listen. You got to listen more than talk, right? If you want to learn something. But yeah, so big shout out to London. I'm sure I know he's passed on by now. But yeah, man, he was really important in my life. Then I had other guys too who were important in my life. But definitely, I definitely had other older men who were important in my life. As far as teaching and stuff like that. I had a girlfriend one time, her father was a professor, right? And I was in my early 20s at the time, but he didn't cast any judgment on me. He would ask me questions, and he knew that I didn't have the best education, and but he didn't try dating his daughter or anything like that. Instead, what he would do is he would educate me. So I had another man who would educate me, about things in life, totally different topics and stuff like that. Get me to see things that I never saw before, And he had a little bit of money, so he was a professor at the University of Massachusetts. So during the summers, he would take us up to these northeastern areas to go kayaking or canoeing or stuff like that, get a cabin or whatever, and just chill out in nature. And that had been my first experience of that. I mean, I don't know, it's not my first experience. I had some experience before my before the wheels fell off the cart with my family. I had some experience going upstate New York to some whatever. Oh, because my grandfather lived. Both my grandfathers were killed in World War II, but just like most widowed women during that era, they would remarry a World War II veteran, and nobody would ever talk about it. I didn't even know he wasn't my biological grandfather until I was 16, 17 or something like that. I couldn't possibly know. I had no idea. He was a great man. Oh man, much better than my father. And I wish my grandparents had taken, and I still to this day, I wish they had taken me and raised me, because I definitely needed that parental figure in my life. Because if you leave children up to their own devices, you know, they're lost at sea. They really are. And you find out how much of an animal we really are, you know? But anyway, so that was a big thing for me, like Washington Square Park. And the funny thing is, and this is not even funny, back then, people would travel from Newark, New Jersey, Jersey City, uptown Manhattan, Harlem, Brooklyn, Brownsville, downtown Brooklyn, Queens, Forest Hills, and everything like that to go to Washington Square Park, right? Because it was a forum. So if you think about things like what a Greek forum might have looked like 3,000 years ago or something like that, I guarantee you they had people with brains on them that could fit right in with those Greek forums back in the 300 BCE. Arun swakunta pota sabadi lupaw dia sabay jadi ya okal lang yai pan mayu oh okayบอกยายพันเกมวายลาว bye bye. So hold on a second, I gotta read some of the chats here. Xfinity says, what about to leave? Was about to leave, but once again distracted me with a picture of the flower. So I did a little cheating and came to the conclusion that it's a celosia. But anyway, that's it for me. I'll hopefully see you for tomorrow's stream. Goodbye. Well, God willing, I hope to see you too. Celosia. I'll remember that. Celosia. Celosia. I'll look that up myself when I get back to the house. Back to the Bat Cave. So anyway, so what were we saying? Yeah, grandpa's World War II survivors, didn't say anything. So basically, they never talked about it. My grandfather was of mixed race, right? They never said anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Two of my sisters, by way of my auntie, are black, and I didn't know what the difference was, you get to a certain age where you start going outside and assholes, really sick people start feeding these thoughts or ideas out there. But for me, I can just honestly tell you, I had no idea. I mean, I had friends, they were just my friends. There was no identification other than, that's Alyosha. That's his face. So that's Stan. That's his face. That's my friend. I don't even know how to explain it to you, but I don't know if you could relate. Anybody can relate to that. But for me, that's the way it was. It wasn't until I started getting out into other parts of the world and the city and stuff like that I started hearing these things, and I was like. It was very disturbing to me and disappointing, to be honest with you. So, anyway, that's that story about that. Anyway, I super appreciate every single one of you joining me on this walk this morning, giving me the motivation, and I hope that you are motivated as well to do things that you want and goals that you're after. You got to know that the world and the community at large, 99% of people in this world want you to do good. People want people to do good. So just know that. It's just those troublemakers that make a lot of noise. And also, express gratitude for the, being able to go on this walk. Some people don't have any legs, they can't walk. So I'm absolutely gratitude for things this morning, and I always try to keep that in mind, and hopefully it'll last me the whole day. And with that being said, I want to wish you all a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good